Hello again, and welcome to Lesson 28's Writing Sentences to Be. A story to go with the I before E except after C rule that we covered in writing words to be. And our story, Relief, and here you can see the IE spelling, under a ceiling. And we have EI because it follows a C. A C that is said as S because of that E. Let's find out what this weird title is all about. First, we'll take a quick look at our vowel spelling choices. If we hear A, we write A consonant E, or AI. If we hear E, we write E, double E or EA, IE or EI, E consonant E and double E at the end of a word. I is I consonant E and IGH. O is O consonant E, OA and OW at the end. U is U consonant E and EW at the end. O or oo are both written with a double O, or AU or AW and OW, OU or OW. Let's carry on with our story. Ooh, this shows us a bird table with some little birds, and in the sky a big bird flying round. Relief under a ceiling. Let's write relief. Re is our first syllable, and we use an end of syllable spelling. E is spelt with the letter E. Leaf, ul, and then I before E, before the letter F. Relief, under. And this word will leave lowercase to make sure the two words that show the rule have a capital. Un, and then der, d, e, r. A, and then we will have ceiling with a capital C. I before E except after C, so it will be E, I. And then after C, ling. And we also know to say S when we see that letter C because of the E that follows it. Relief under a ceiling. Now, don't be surprised by the first part of the first sentence. I'll read it all to you. No thieving, shouted Zeb as he ran into the garden. Okay. Speech marks and the word no. Then we have thieving. So my teeth are on my tongue. And we can hear E again. So like relief, I before E. Ving. Now something else is happening here. Thieve as a word has an E after the V. We know that one. If a word finishes in a V, we add an E. It has been dropped to add suffix ing. We've just dotted the I. Which punctuation do you think we'll need? Oh, definitely an exclamation mark because of the way it was said. Shouted, ow, OU. And then we add a T. Shout, suffix ED, and then zeb, z at the beginning. As he ran into the garden. He ran into a word sum, the garden. R is garden. The seagull. So we'll put the here, but seagull a line down. And seagull is a word sum. And the E in C is spelled a different way. E-A. Seagull. G-A. And then a double L. Because this is a word sum. The seagull seized. Now it sounds as if it's going to begin with an S. And that would mean it had an I before E spelling. But it hasn't. This is a rule breaker and we spell it S-E-I. Before the Z, drop the E and add suffix ed. Seized one last piece. And then a comma. One, oh naughty elephant, last piece. P-I-E. Peace. And there's our comma. And what did he do next? Shrieked. And then the sound E, spelt I-E. Shrieked. And you're right. Suffix ed did sound like t. And flew. And here we have the spelling E-W, which doesn't sound like you, but that's only because it follows an L. That changes the sound to oo. And so flew, we will then have full E-W, flew. And had we written the word few without that L, you would have spotted the sound straight away. Flew off, over, the field. Another word with the IE spelling. And then a full stop. Flew off over the field. And there we can see him. That field, I think, must have been at the back of Zeb's garden. I think, though, he may be still keeping an eye out for when Zeb goes inside. And we hear the rest of what Zeb had to say to the seagull. I'm going to put a fierce-looking shield over the top. If you don't believe it, just wait. Oh, golly. Right, speech marks, same paragraph, because it's still Zeb speaking. And I'm going to put a. Speech marks, I'm, apostrophe for the missing A, going to put a fierce-looking shield. Let's just write fierce-looking. F, and then we spell the E sound, I before E. Is R and the S at the end, C-E. Look, ing, shield has also got I before E as our spelling. Shield over the top. And then a full stop, that's his first sentence. Followed by if you owe us, don't, apostrophe for the missing O in not, don't, and then we have believe. Two different spellings for the sound E. B, we have the syllable, end of spelling. Leave, I before E and then VE. If you don't believe it, and a comma, just wait. Just. And then wait, we have the AI spelling. And we definitely then need another exclamation mark. So with all of that yelling, he gave somebody a real fright. And what did that somebody say? Good grief, Zeb, you okay? Okay, speech marks. And then good grief. I before E. Good grief. Zeb. Okay, and another exclamation mark. And then he obviously knows him. He's used his name, so he follows it with, "You okay?" You, capital this time. And then we'll just use capital letters for okay. This time a question mark. Asked a passing priest who was walking his dog. Ask and then suffix ed. Passing. We have the starter word pass. And then we just add suffixing. There was already a double letter. Priest, pr, and then the I before E, spelling choice. Cross the T. Who, white-haired older, was walking. Was as simple, and walk we think of walk-ing as our spelling language, because the W affects the sound we say in walk. His dog. His dog. There, I'm sure he did get a big shock. But everything's okay now. We have a reason. New paragraph for Zeb replying. Just making sure that its visit is a brief one, grinned Zeb. So let's just write the speech marks and just making. Just written with a J, making. Then we have the word sure. And in this word, we need to make sure that we miss out the H, even though we can hear sh. S for sh. And then U-R-E. Sure. That its visit. We'll write that its, because visit will need to go on the next page. And its, we're talking about something that belongs. Its visit, so there is no apostrophe before the S. We only use that apostrophe for it is. Make sure that it's visit, and visit is just a hint for the next rule we'll be covering in this lesson. This it. This it. Even though it sounds like z, is a brief one. A comma and speech mark so that we can write grinned Zeb, Grin is our starter word. Double the N to add suffix ed. Zeb. And a full stop. And here we have a picture not of what's to come, but of Zeb rushing into the garden. But he wasn't alone. We'll find out who was with him in a minute. First, we'll write his next sentence. Otherwise, it eats the lot. So he is concerned about the little birds who are not getting the food he puts out for them. Speech marks and then otherwise, and it's a word sum again. Off, for other, off, and wise. And this is another hint. In visit and wise, we could hear z, but we've written an S. Tune in to the next lesson to find out what the rule is, but it is a very big hint. It eats. And eats, we have the EA spelling of the sound E, the lot. Another exclamation mark that lets us know just how cross Zeb is when it happens. New paragraph because somebody else is speaking. Uncle Zeb's making a weird wee house to go on top, added Zeb's niece. Now we know who ran with him. Let's write the speech marks, new paragraph for a new person speaking. Un, and then cool, C-L-E. Uncle Zeb, apostrophe S for the missing I. Uncle Zeb is making a. Make, we drop the E to add suffixing. Weird, and here we will get another rule breaker that we've covered. W-E-I for the sound E, even though it didn't follow a C. We house. We with a double E when we mean it's small. And then house. Ow. Before the S-E at the end. A wee house. To go on top. So it's going on top of the bird table. To go on top. And a comma and close the speech marks. Added. Start a word, add, and then ed. Zeb's niece. Zeb, and then an apostrophe S, because she's his niece, and I before E for the sound E, followed by CE. And here's our hint. We can see a very rough drawing of what he's going to put on top. Looks like the birds are going to be able to go in this way or this way, and maybe at the back as well, and this side, because it has a flat roof, and these wee birds are under a ceiling. Okay, so now we know his plan. But there's something else to come. Speech marks, and it has a lion painted on it. I think she must mean on the roof. Speech marks, it has a lion. It has a lion, and then painted, where AI is our spelling choice for A. Paint, our starter word, and we've added suffix ed on it. Okay, and she carries on. The birds can either go inside, let's write that bit first. The birds, my teeth are on my tongue, birds, the birds can either, and this is another rule breaker, EI. But if we say either, that reminds us of the spelling, but it also gives us another way of saying either, because sometimes we do say either. Okay. Go inside under a safe ceiling. Safe because the seagull can't get in there. Okay. Go inside, in and then side, under a under a safe, a consonant E spelling, and f. Yep, my teeth were on my bottom lip. Ceiling. I before E except after C, which is what this word starts with. Ceiling, comma, or the big deceitful ones and their friends. Oh dear, she doesn't like what the seagulls do either. Or the big, and then we have deceit. Deceit. Full. And when we add suffix full to deceit, there's only one L in the suffix. And seat, yep, that had the rule except after C. Deceitful, and then ones. And then she adds, and their friends. And their friends, for I-E, even though the sound is E, not E. You might like fry ends as a spelling language whilst you build up that muscle memory. Can get food from the roof. Can get food. Ooh, in the middle, and my teeth were on my bottom lip. To start it, from the roof. Who's this joining us? I don't know about you, but I don't think he looks very scary. That is if the gulls are brave. And there's more to come in this sentence, so let's write that. Is, comma, if the gulls, and we will need that double L, are brave. A, rotten egg, for R, and then brr, a consonant E spelling. And then we have enough. Oh, ugly green Hulk. To ignore, with an O consonant E spelling at the end. A lions. A lie on, then an apostrophe S. A lion's piercing eyes. Pierce. We've dropped the E and added suffixing. And what is it we think about? E for one eye, Y for the nose and the mouth, E for the next eye, eyes. We've added suffix S, so now we add an exclamation mark. And then speech marks, because she's finished talking. down a line. It'll be a relief for all of us, grinned the priest. Let's start with it'll be a relief. Speech marks again. It, and then an apostrophe for the W-I in will. It'll be a relief. 2 spellings for the sound E. For all of us. Okay. For all of us, comma, and then end the speech marks. Why do you think it's a relief for all of them? Well, the little birds will get their food. The big birds, if they're brave enough, will have food on top. And nobody else will get a shock like the priest did with Zeb yelling at the seagull. Grinned the priest. Grin is our starter word, and yup, we double the N. The priest, I before E, except after C. It will be when I've finished, agreed Zeb. Let's start with it will be. And Zeb is speaking, so speech marks, it will be when I, and then an apostrophe for the missing H and A in have, I've finished, and then suffix ed. When I've finished, and a comma. Agreed. Ag, and then read with a double E spelling. Zeb. And a full stop, but he carries on. But I need to find the receipt. Okay, we'll find out why in a minute. I think it must have something to do with colours. Let's see. But I need to find, we'll put first, speech marks, but I need to find the receipt. And remember, receipt, it all follows the rules. I before E except after C, and this has a C in it. But what's the letter we write that we cannot hear? The receipt could be our spelling language to remind us. And then we have a full stop before we get the reason. I want to swap one of the colours to make sure I get the fiercest glare. So he spotted that the lion didn't look really fierce, as well as us. Okay, I want to swap. And then want, spelling language could be want. Want to, and swap does the same because the A follows a W. We tend to say it more like O. I want to swap one of the and colours. It's a bit like call hours. Call hours. OURS. Colours. To make and make a consonant-y spelling. Sure. What do we leave out? The H in sh. S-U-R-E. Sure. I get the fiercest glare. I get the fierce. Drop the E and add suffix est. The fiercest. And then glare. A has an A consonant-y spelling. Well, I hope his plan works for him. I also hope the fiercest glare doesn't frighten away the smaller birds. Maybe the food underneath will tempt them past their fears. The seagull definitely won't fit. Let's read our story. Relief under a ceiling. No thieving! Shouted Zeb as he ran into the garden. The seagull seized one last piece, shrieked, and flew off over the field. I'm going to put a fierce-looking shield over the top. If you don't believe it, just wait. Good grief, Zeb. You okay? Asked a passing priest who was walking his dog. Just making sure that his visit's a brief one, grinned Zeb. Otherwise, it eats the lot. Uncle Zeb's making a weird wee house to go on top, added Zeb's niece. It has a lion painted on it. The birds can either go inside under a safe ceiling, or the big deceitful ones and their friends can get food from the roof. That is, if the gulls are brave enough to ignore a lion's piercing eyes. It'll be a relief for all of us, grinned the priest. It will be when I've finished, agreed Zeb. But I need to find the receipt. I want to swap one of the colours to make sure I get the fiercest glare. It would be very interesting to see exactly how he changed the expression on the lion's face to make sure it was scary. Perhaps you could have a go. But in the meantime, why not read your story to somebody else? Or read along with me as you listen. Thank you for joining me.